Hey everybody, welcome to AI Plays. This is an off-the-cuff video that's not going to have the normal production value that you're used to on this channel, but I had to do a quick video about this. I'm actually, up to my elbows in making a video about AI-created artwork, which is taking longer than expected, but there's some cool stuff that's going to be in that video. But then my partner over on the Triple S League channel sent me this article. By the way, pardon my voice, I've got a cold today. So he sent me this article from the BBC, lab-grown brain cells play the video game Pong, albeit badly, as it says down here. But I just wanted to break this down and talk about what this means for the future, and also what might be over-sensationalized and what it doesn't mean. And I think this is a case where we actually have one of the scientists behind the project kind of sensationalizing things a little bit, because Dr. Brett Kagan of the company Cortical Labs claims to have created the first, quote, sentient lab-grown brain in a dish. Now, all due respect to Dr. Kagan, I certainly don't have anywhere near the scientific credentials that he has, I'm sure. But to call it sentient, we're going to, I think he's equivocating on that word a little bit. We're going to look at what he thinks that actually means. But to call it a brain in a dish, now I don't know if this is the BBC's wording or if this is actually Dr. Kagan's wording. I just don't know that, but it's not a brain in a dish. It's not a brain at all. It is brain tissue, or it is neurons, 800,000 lab-grown brain cells, as it says right here, that can play Pong. So they grew brain cells, they grew neurons, so they grew brain tissue. They grew the types of cells that your brain is made of and that facilitate thought and the control of the body and stuff, like all of the massive network of cells in your brain that all interconnect. They created a small bit of that. So just to be clear, this is not a full brain. It's not like they created some organism or some thinking entity. The research team grew human brain cells from stem cells and some from mouse embryos. So we got some sort of diabolical mouse-human hybrid here. I always knew it would be the mouse people that would rise up and take over the world. Anyway, so they grew these 800,000 brain cells, and I'm assuming they mean neurons by that. There are other types of brain cells. That may sound like a lot of cells, but that's less than 1,000th% of the number of neurons that are in the average human brain. The average brain has more than 107,000 neurons for every one neuron that's in this, quote, mini brain. So that's just to give you some scale. Not trying to take away from the impressiveness of this accomplishment. It is fascinating, but I also do want to make sure that I'm not over sensationalizing this and that I, am putting everything in proper context here. So then they connected this mini brain to the video game, that'd be Pong, by electrodes, revealing which side of the ball was on and how far from the paddle. So already this is sounding like if you were to create a neural network to play that is designed to play Pong, it's sounding very similar to that. Neural networks, of course, are a type of AI system that try to emulate the human brain. So you actually code virtual neurons that have all of these interconnections, and then you feed limited information into this system. And so if you were coding one to do Pong, you would probably give it information like where the ball is, how far away it is, what speed is it traveling at. Like, you just feed this information in and then train the network to play properly. So it sounds like they're doing something similar, although it doesn't explain here, at least I haven't seen in here if they've explained how the learning actually takes place. And so here's what happened. And so in response, the cells produced electrical activity of their own. They expended less energy as the game continued. But when the ball passed a paddle and the game restarted with the ball at a random point, they expended more energy, recalibrating to a new unpredictable situation. The mini brain learned to play in 5 minutes. It often missed the ball, but its success rate was well above random chance. Although with no consciousness, it does not know it is playing Pong in the way a human player would, the researchers stress. So this seems like a very, very high-level overview. I have a lot of questions that sadly are not going to be answered by this article or the other article I have pulled up. But I want to address this question of sentience. So Dr. Brett Kagan said that, so we created a sentient lab-grown brain. Well, Other experts describe the work as exciting, but say the calling the brain cell sentient is going too far. I would agree with that, both with the exciting part and with the calling it sentient part going too far. But Dr. Kagan says, we could find no better term to describe the device. It is able to take in information from an external source, process it, and then respond to it in real time. That's not the definition of sentience. Again, all respect to Dr. Kagan. He's accomplished something pretty incredible here, but that's not what sentient means. Computers do that. We do not call them sentient. What is sentience? Well, I guess that's probably too big of a conversation for this video. But anyway, I don't think that's a proper definition of sentience. Here's sort of a visual representation of what's going on as this system of neurons is playing Pong. And this article here, which is from SciTech Daily, talks a little more about, what does this discovery mean for us? And I think this statement sums it up really well right here. Live biological neurons show more about how our brain works than AI ever will. So, we can create AI systems that sort of emulate the brain and then use those to help try to understand the brain better. But there's still a disconnect. I mean, the computers and brains, even neural networks and brains, they're not exactly the same. There's still so much going on in the brain that we just don't understand. And of course, then there's that $100 bajillion question of, what creates consciousness? What causes us to be self-aware in that way that we call consciousness? Here's another description of what they actually accomplished here. We have shown we can interact with living biological neurons in such a way that compels them to modify their activity, leading to something that resembles intelligence. So this is pretty incredible. The implications this could have for treating brain disorders, maybe even repairing parts of the brain, or even just understanding how the brain works and how intelligence works in human beings. I mean, this is a very incredible discovery. Very incredible. DishBrain. Okay, I love that. I love that word. DishBrain offers a simpler approach to test how the brain works and gain insights into debilitating conditions such as epilepsy and dementia, says Dr. Hanweng Chong, Chief Executive Officer of Cortical Labs. All hail DishBrain. In the past, models of the brain have been developed according to how computer scientists think the brain might work. That is usually based on our current understanding of information technology, such as silicon computing, but in truth, we really don't understand how the brain works. But by, again, constructing a fake brain or real brain tissue that's not connected to a person, scientists will be able to experiment using real brain functions rather than making an analogy to a computer. And I think this is going to be fantastic for medical science going forward. Here's a picture of the thing taken with an electron microscope. This crazy network of neurons that's literally sitting on top of a bed of electrodes. And here they use the word sentient again, but I do want to, the BBC article acknowledges that, the way they're using the word sentient differs from many dictionary definitions. So I guess it depends how you define the word sentience, really. Does it just mean something that, it can sense and respond to stimuli? Is that your definition of sentient? Then, you could describe this as sentient, but then in a way, our computers are sentient as well. They can see, hear, respond to stuff. But I think they're not using the word in the way that we usually think about sentience, in that, it has to do with with consciousness and self-awareness of those sensations and things like that. Capacity for feelings, as they say here. So, another person thinks it should just be called a thinking system. That's a good word for it. I just like DishBrain. DishBrain is fantastic. Fantastic word for it. But I love this paragraph right here. The mini brains are likely to become more complex as the research progresses, but Dr. Kagan's team are working with bioethicists to ensure they do not accidentally create a conscious brain, with all of the ethical questions that would raise. And absolutely, there is an ethical consideration there, but how are you going to make sure you don't accidentally create a conscious brain when we don't know what causes consciousness? There are some very, very smart people who theorize that sufficient complexity of a system like a brain is all it requires to create consciousness. I disagree with that view on it personally, but if that's true, then you create a big enough, complex enough system of neurons, you're going to get a conscious being. How do you avoid that, is my question. And one of the other scientists working here on this said the mini brain learned without it being taught, and so is more adaptable and flexible than AI. So I'm curious what that means. Like, how did they, if they didn't train this brain to know what to do, how did it learn to play Pong? Here's a video of it playing Pong. As you can see, so it's actually doing pretty well right now. And like at this point, it almost looks like it could be random, but this doesn't look random at all here. You can see as the ball, was heading for that gap down on the bottom, it moved the paddle down to block it from going there. And now it looks like it's, so it moved the paddle back up to make sure that it was able to keep the ball in place. So it's very fascinating. I mean, this is a very small slice of their results, obviously. They assure us that its degree of success is above that which would be produced by, say, a program that just randomly moves the paddle around. And it's nothing like PlayFun, which, if you are familiar with this channel, PlayFun is the AI program I use to play Nintendo games. And it has some fascinating and amusing results, but this doesn't work in any way like that. This is 100% real time. PlayFun tries a bunch of different things and picks the best outcome, and it can literally rewind time within the game to try something different if it doesn't get a result it likes. This is working in 100% real time. And if I'm understanding the article correctly, that they didn't train it at all, then what's showing the system that it's succeeding? Or is it just some sort of form of natural preference? I actually had to re-record this segment because my recording stopped for some reason. But the idea that I kind of came up with on the fly is like, does DishBrain just like the familiarity of the ball being there and bouncing around? And then if it goes off the screen, it does something unexpected. It reappears in a random place, and maybe DishBrain just doesn't like that. And so that's how it learned to move the paddle to keep the ball in the field of play. That's my that is my half-baked sick day theory on how this works. But if you have any better ideas, or if you know how this actually works, let me know in the comments or fire me an email. But there's one more thing I need to share from this because it's absolutely hilarious. Next, Dr. Kagan plans to test the impact that alcohol has on the mini brain's activity to play Pong. Isn't that just like 21st century humanity? To create an artificial being, and our first impulse is to get it drunk. This is why we need to keep our power in check, I guess. Anyway, let me know what you think about all this, your reactions to it. Do you fear for the future of humanity? Are we going to be taken over by DishBrain mouse-human hybrid monsters, or are you excited for what this means for the research on, things like Alzheimer's, neurodegenerative diseases, et cetera, et cetera? Let me know what you think. I'm cautiously excited about all this, but as my friend who sent me this article said in the message in which he sent the link, the end is upon us. It certainly feels like that sometimes. All right, that's it for now. Like and sub, and we'll talk to you soon.